Hello, I'm Tom Armitage. I'm a technologist and designer, which means I build things out of technology. I draw a lot of diagrams. I spend a long while soldering. I'm also on the program advisory committee here. I'm also a fairly amateur musician and an instrument builder. And I suppose I've been asked to talk about connecting worlds, bridging digital natives and live music. And rather than talking about that title, I was going to do the work for you and unpack it, which will, as usual, not do any of the work for you. But I want to take apart that title and see what's caught up in it and angles you might want to explore. So first of all, the word digital. What are we meaning when we say digital? One simple angle, it's often a very simplistic and reductive angle, is things with screens. Things with screens come up a lot. So computers, tablets, phones, sometimes digital work turns out to just be work on a screen. But I don't think it has to be. There are other things that could encompass. We could be talking about networked work. So the magic thing about this is it's connected to data, it's connected to the internet, it's connected to one another, it's connected to my friends, it's connected to strangers. We could be talking about things that are interactive, so things that are not just static, but things that through manipulation I alter, and that manipulation might not be free choice. It might not be stabbing at a screen in the dark. We could be talking about things that move very quickly, that move in real time, that happen live. We could be talking about things that are slow. One of the things digital technology is very good at is sort of throwing time out the window and dealing with asynchronous interaction or slow interaction. We could be talking about things that are very simple, so not screens and flashing lights and real-time graphics, but email. Or text messages. Text messages are ridiculously simple. They're very easy to work with, and you can build a lot of weird art with them, and I have built weird art out of texting people. What can be challenged? If we're going to talk about digital, and the moment someone says we're doing a work around digital, and everyone sees swipey screens and devices that look like this, what could it be? I'll tell you now about a piece of art I adore. It's from the 1990s. It's one of the earliest pieces of net art. And it's by Natalie Jeremijenko, who is an Australian artist. It's called Live Wire, and it was a visualization of how an office used the internet. And it's a piece of string that hangs from the ceiling. And the more network traffic that's being used, the faster it shook. It's entirely physical. It has no obvious digital component, but it's a commentary on digital work. That is an inherently digital artwork, but it doesn't necessarily look it, and it challenges what digital art can be through its form. Also, what is unique to the digital? I'm going to say one thing that is not unique to the digital is telly. A lot of things that get discussed as sort of the future of digital and art turn out to be telly. National Theatre Live, which is vastly profitable for them, is telly. Streaming video on the internet is not unique to the internet. It is basically broadcast. And broadcast is a very well-known model. It's very effective. It does exactly what you think it would do. And I think there's much more that's unique to the digital environment to think about. What are digital contexts? We are all carrying devices on us, but the way we use them varies. Right now I'm not looking at my phone because it would be rude. I'm talking to you. I don't necessarily use it when I'm at work to do personal things. And yet at home I will look things up when I need to. And I'll use this in a way that's very different. I'm sat at my desk at a computer all day, but I don't use it the same way I do when I'm sat on the sofa at home. So the digital contexts we live in constantly change, and something that might be appropriate for one kind of use may not work in another. And that's the thing you can challenge and explore. And finally, what digital infrastructure is there? Because we don't live in a magic land where it's uniquely distributed. We don't live in a world where everyone owns the same device. We don't live in a world where everyone can afford the same access to services. We don't live in a world where radio signals are equally distributed. I work in a building where there is no phone signal, and a place that signal and access to technology and connectivity is wildly variable is live music venues. I have been in some which are fantastic, and I've been in some that are dead spots. And ideas that have to work in those venues have to embrace what's available in them rather than working in the hypothetical live music venue with breakthrough G. Natives, digital natives. I'm going to be honest, I don't like that term, but that's a good reason to, again, try and work out what it means. So who are they? Who are we talking about? Are we talking about the young? Frequently that's used to mean young people. Young people are interesting because in one sense they are very native to a digital world. They've grown up in a world where technology surrounds and bathes them, but often the knowledge is quite specific. Time and time again, research that I've seen and projects I've worked on discover that you target an audience, and it turns out they're very good at Facebook, but that doesn't mean they understand how technology works. It's deep in certain areas. So don't assume that because you're aiming at a particular age group or demographic, their knowledge of technology will be uniform. They might be deeply expert at some things and less so at others. But it's not just the young. I imagine everyone here that has on them a mobile phone, if not a smartphone. That's a device that can talk across the world thanks to radio waves. That is being native to a digital world. You could say that just living in 2016 as being a kind of digital native. And when we say native, native where? Because I think the thing you'll discover about technology, and especially the internet, is the internet has a sense of place. Some people are native to Tumblr. It is where they exist. It is where they hang out, and they don't leave it. So Twitter has a native crowd that doesn't go outside it. And it's interesting to consider targeting sub-communities in particular places. Because the one thing the internet affords brilliantly is micro-community, the idea that people can cluster around tiny topics and be built around them. And I suppose if you're going to make a work that's for people who are native to a digital environment, what does it do to the people who aren't? Or what does it do to people who don't have a screen on them? And what does it do when they've run out of battery or when the signal is down? And how does it still work? Because I've never been to a concert that broke because it ran out of battery. And yet last night I had to charge my book up. So, it's not about working in all possible. It's about working in all possible contexts. Not necessarily the same way, but having an answer to all those questions. And let's talk about live music, live events. About one of the most perceptive things anyone's ever said to me about live is the theatre maker Tassos Stevens, who's a friend of mine. And he basically said at one point, he said, a live work begins the first time somebody hears about it, and it ends when they stop thinking about it. Which changes how you think about making a piece for somebody to see. They're not going to turn up and see this thing. They're engaging a bit when they see it in a programme, when they get that email reminder telling them to come. They're going to think about it afterwards. And live stuff expands over time. There's anticipation. I'm looking forward to seeing it. The second it's over, I will sit in the pub or on the bus home and talk about it with my friends. Live is this smear of time. And where do you want to intercede? Maybe a piece of music or a piece of opera or a piece of theatre designed for a live event. Maybe that is untouched by the digital. Maybe it's those other tendrils forward and back that is where your intercession might occur. There are so many things you can do around a performance not to distract from the music. Nothing is worse than people ignoring a performance for some shishi technology demo, and yet you can still use that to enhance and inform. So, live could be an event I go to. It could be simultaneity. Something happens for everyone in this room at the same time, even if they're not all in the same place. Live is about uniqueness. You go and see a live event and it won't be the same the next night just because the weather has changed and a sore throat has developed in one of the performers and the air is different. Live can just be about performed, not recorded. You've got a chance to explore what digital could mean for the notion of liveness, and I think it's worth exploring. And again, that sort of speaks in a very opposite direction to telly on the internet. And finally, I want to talk about research and development and R&D, because a lot of what my work looks like is I respond to briefs with titles, and I build things that are unfinished, and I explain how they prove a point. This is part of, there's this idea of work in progress. And I think any technological component, especially for the budgets involved, is definitely going to be a kind of work in progress. But you get to choose what that looks like. In design, there's the notion of prototypes can serve different purposes. A designer could make a looks-like prototype. So that could be a thing that looks like this chair to prove what this chair should look like. But you mustn't sit on it because it will break because it's made of papier-mâché. Or it could make a works-like prototype, which doesn't look like this chair. It's just a box. But it already explores the idea of what sitting might be like, and would it be comfortable. And this varies depending on your project. It might be very important to prove that even if it's clunky and ugly and a bit stage managed, the concept works, the functionality is important. Or you might just want to answer the question, what would it feel like if? And what we're going to do is a lot of sleight of hand and theatre to prove that if you were to continue down this path, this would function.
So this isn't about fakery, it's about choosing what you're trying to prove. The budget for production is, I would say, low for technology projects, but it's not zero. And not zero opens up a whole load of doors. And I've done a lot of work with a composer friend and various arts groups where enough to pay for materials and pay for research in an interesting space opens up doors and means you can have conversations with people. You're not going to be building any apps, you're not going to be streaming any live video, but you might, as a result, be forced into some very interesting conversations. And this is definitely going to be about collaboration. Technologists love collaborating. We like working with other people. We like working on projects that are interesting. So this is also an opportunity to find new collaborators and possibly build a project that then will go forward from work in progress and into either future funding streams or other future kinds of development. So really, you're looking to find out answers fast, rather than make something which is brilliant and polished and finished. What are the things you would need to know to take it forward? What are the questions you immediately want answering? What are you going to fail fast to find out? And that's much more, I think, interesting and relevant to digital work than just trying to get a finished line and something that's polished but doesn't hold up. That is really all I have to say. I'm going to be here all night and I'll probably be in some rooms. And if things don't come up in conversation and you want to talk to me, you can get my email address off me. But yeah, I think collaboration is going to be a big part of this. And really take apart what that brief means and what it means for you and what you'd like to explore. Don't assume that we all have the same understanding of a title. I think I'm done.